Welcome. I'm J. Michael Silver, and this is Foundational Steps, the show where I talk with people about the choices they've made and how they get to where they are in life now. In this episode, I'm talking with Tasha Tacosa, actress, writer, producer, creator, entrepreneur. She does it all. She knows her shit. I've known Tasha for a long time, and she might best be described as a force of nature. Tasha has an amazing story, and I can't wait to share it with you. Links to Tasha and timestamps for everything that came up are in the show notes. Don't forget to leave a comment or a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And check out our affiliate links for some cool stuff that you might find valuable. Enjoy our conversation. Because it's been so long since I've seen you, go ahead and just refresh me because you've kind of done it all. You've done casting, acting, producing. You've gone the B route. You've gone for, traditional Hollywood stuff. Like, how did you get started and why?
That's a very multifaceted question.
Yeah.
Let's see, where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, because I feel like it's been so long since we've talked, I really don't even remember. Were you acting as a child?
Yes, I was a child actress. I was a classically trained child actress, like equity theater, Shakespeare, the whole nine, like summer
Everything.
stock, all of it. Yeah, so I did all of that, and then I went to school of performing arts. Then I went to a college of the performing arts, and I was headed to New York. And I was going to be on Broadway. That was the whole deal. Trained my whole life for it. I was like, this is all happening.
Family behind you and everything?
As much as they can be, they're not necessarily artistic people and they don't necessarily get it. And as we get into conversation, you'll understand I take a very eccentric route because I must have like just this great desire for crazy adventure.
Yeah.
So as much as it could be, but literally when I was 8 years old, I was taking college courses and learning how to write resume. I know, right? I did summer stock theater. They offered college credit at William and Mary to like if you were in the
Wait a
company.
Second. Are you from Virginia?
Yeah.
Did I not know that?
Are you from Virginia?
Yeah.
I've only known you 400 years. How do I
know? I mean, we must have talked about that at some point in time, but
maybe.
I mean, I grew up in the DC metro area, Northern Virginia, but I had so many family friends that went to William and Mary, and I went to Virginia Tech. So
how did I not know that?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Okay, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to like. I mean, it has been a while since we've talked or seen each other, but that just seems insane that's I mean, there's not that many people from Virginia out here, I feel like.
And I usually remember stuff like that.
Yeah. So. Especially William and Mary. Anytime anyone brings up William and Mary, because that's not like one of the big Virginia schools. So typically speaking, if someone knows William and Mary, it's either because they went there or because they're from Virginia, which are both not that common in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no. Well, that's so crazy. But yeah, that's where I started because I started doing professional theater there. And part of like the trade for professional theater was that you could take college credits at William and Mary. So clearly I was 8 and thought that meant me.
Yeah, why not?
I took a whole semester of college credits.
Makes sense to me.
My mom was like, but she's a doctor of political science. She was like, oh, you want to take classes too? You're 8? Sure. Go to college. Have fun. Yeah, but I took business classes. No, she loved it. She was like, you're on stage, you're getting your education.
Yeah.
So I took business classes when I was there and I was like, okay, this is how the business of my life is happening. I was ready to be a cocktail waitress in New York by the time I was 9. I was that motivated.
Wow.
But anyways, so so I did as much as I could in Virginia. I did some children's shows that were actually on camera, kind of like a Mr. Wizard's World for the guys who did Sesame Street. Yep. And then I was going to New York. And then my friend called me because she had moved out here and she was in a rock band. It's very hard to make friends out here. I'm sure you know to a degree. She's like, here. It's so hard. You can stay on my couch for free for 2 months. You can act here. And I literally was like, I cannot do this. But I don't like the concept of starving artist. And I also thought, I know what's going to happen in New York, but I have no idea what's happening in LA.
Oh,
So
wow.
of course, the kill factor in me is like, all right, I guess I'm getting in my car and driving to LA next month. Let's do this. No plan, no
Well, how
nothing.
old were you at that time then?
I was, I would say like just 21,
Oh, okay.
maybe.
So it wasn't like you're 18 and you're like, I'm legal, mom and dad. I'm driving across the country and going
I
chase.
would have done that. I would have done that. And then I was just like, I was literally like ready, and they were like, no. And I was like, oh, but I guess I'll go to college. I went to college early. So it's like, I was like, I guess I'll go and waste my time there.
So did you
Um,
graduate high school early?
no, I'm just young. I was a young, I was behind. You know how some kids,
Yeah.
they hit the thing. My
Yeah,
mom
yeah,
hit
yeah.
me familiar.
So
And
did
so,
you get, so you finished, you got your Bachelor of Arts or a fine arts, or what did you get a degree
well,
in?
it's an interesting story if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I was in the process of doing it because I went to school of performing arts. So most of my college credits too, I got in high school.
Okay.
And so I went to college and everybody was like, oh, it's this big thing. And I was like, oh, it's a bunch of spoiled kids.
I
And
mean,
I paid for all my stuff. Like I was
right.
like on my own. So it's like, not that I have judgment, it's fine. But from my point of view, I was like, I'm killing myself to be in a theater department. And I don't know if people really understand how that runs, but it's dramatic and political.
Yep.
And for me, I was like, I'm not, my parents aren't paying for this. I'm
Yeah.
killing myself to do this. I'm
Yep.
getting really good grades, but I'm getting a lot of trash because I'm really, really independent. I had an advisor come in the last year I was there. So almost there. I only have a couple credits. I don't tell any people, but then part of me is like, why not? Because you should know that there's options. You make
Yeah.
choices in life as far, and that, I guess this is what this is about.
Eh,
But my advisor came in, this really great advisor, the best one I ever had, and he was really honest kind of about life.
mhm.
And we were talking, and I was like, they're trying to kick me out of the department because I have an opinion, and they say I'm failing his classes, but I took them in high school. I already passed them. You know, they're just trying to push me out because I'm not like a yes man.
Yep.
And I was like, and also like, because I had worked professionally on and off. I'm like, how come there are no business classes for actors? And how come there's no practice
Seriously,
understanding?
that's needed. That's so needed. And I feel like every program out there, because I mean, Virginia Tech had an award-winning theater program when I went there. There was no
Yeah.
business classes. And all my friends that went to like North Carolina School of the Arts or, all the other places we won't mention up north on the East Coast, they didn't have business classes either. And I was shocked when I got out here. Business was not the way anyone went about the industry, or at least not from the acting side of things. And then when you try to do that as an actor in Los Angeles, you quickly find out you're not allowed to be your own publicity person, marketing person, ad person. You're not allowed to go and solicit business on your behalf in any way, shape, or form, because that's just a no-no.
But
Like,
then low key, you kind of have to do it in a way.
oh
You have
yeah,
to,
you have
and
to. You have to figure out a clever way to do it
mhm.
without doing it in an overt business manner, because if you're seen as a business person, then that's like overzealous and over, I don't know, it just wasn't a positive thing, or at
Well,
least that's my
also
experience.
being a female, it's not a positive because they immediately go, "You're not an actress." I'm like, "Because I'm invested in my future."
Yeah, because
Because
I'm
I'm
smart about the way I'm
using my brain,
yeah.
like, so I'm not an act. What are you saying about people who are an actress? That's insulting. But
I had a
that's the whole.
casting I had a casting director who literally told me, you're too smart to be an actor. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And this is a big casting director, not going to name names, but
Mhm.
this person was a big deal.
Right.
And I'm like, so, and I listed off a handful of celebrities, and you're telling me these people that are producing and directing and writing films and starring in films, they started as actors. You're telling me they're not smart? He's like, it's not what I'm saying. And I was like, oh, you're just telling me to dumb it down for now
Right.
until, and I'm like, how does that help anyone though?
But
Like,
you can't, like, in certain personality types, you can't fall into that mold. You can't, because I'm sure, like, I have had many, well, a long time ago, I had conversations with you, but I know that you think about what you're doing and
yeah,
what you're trying to create, because I started realizing there's a difference between being an actor, no hate actors, and being an artist.
Yeah.
And when you're an artist, it's has a different kind of like fight in you to get things done, and
Yeah.
a different, I think it opens your perspective a lot. And I think you see that more now with like social media and
Oh yeah.
everything. More artists getting on the scene, like finally we have a place. But
Well, the
yeah,
NFT world is also blowing up because artists are finally like, wait, I can control my work and I don't have to rely on some person to judge my value. And all of a sudden, people are making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on the regular. I mean, it's amazing and it's crazy and it's overwhelming all at the same time.
well, in that world, people, I've heard certain opinions from people, and they're all like, well, isn't that just kind of like a front for something? Or isn't, they're like complaining about NFTs like it's not a real world. And I was like, quite honestly, I don't mean to be rude, but as the artist, am I concerned why you're buying the art?
Right?
I mean,
Exactly.
you're buying my work. So do I care why you're doing it's not in the regular art world? Let's be real.
Good
Like,
Lord, painters and artists and sculptors have been being taken advantage of for thousands of years. I mean, maybe you could say going back, to like Leo and Raphael and all those guys they had patrons. They were commissioned to be artists by people that understood the value of having great artists do great work. So they were literally paid by people just to make stuff. And every now and again, by the way, I want you to do this kind of statue, or I want you to make a bust of me or whatever. And like somewhere along the way, art got devalued, being an artist got devalued. Whatever your art was, you were a product, not an entity, not a thinking, feeling person that is both creator, master, commander of their own, empire kind of thing. I don't know how or why, but it happened.
yeah, and I think devalue is incredible way, because then people just got molded into just being the product,
Yeah.
which if that's your if that's your piece in it, fine. But like, I feel like a lot of people, this industry is so hard and the artistic world is so hard that most
Mhm.
people who are artists, that's not enough, and that's why they get frustrated a lot of times, and they'll fight the system, and sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
Mostly you don't, but
Well, and I've had to think about that, like what are wins and what are not wins, and
yeah.
I had to reevaluate that when I reevaluated what my actual bottom line was. So as an artist, like, do I just want the 5 lines on some sitcom, or do I really want to make a mark and think like I put all my life and time and education into this pathway? It's more than that. Like,
Yeah.
what is, and hence like the craziness of my career. Yes, it's gone a lot of ways. um but yeah, so so basically my advisor was like, Tasha, get out of here. He's like, you don't belong in this school. These kids are never going to pursue their acting career. And he was like, not even being rude, but people didn't like that he was so in your face honest. But honestly, this business, to actually survive in it, you need a little bit of that. And ironically, my dad said the same thing. He was like, why are you in Virginia, like going to college to be an artist? He was like, go to California, finish your degree there. It's cheaper. Like, you can go to college in any state, but you can't do the business that you want to do here.
Right.
So
No.
hence I was like, okay, clearly I'm going to California.
Yeah. I mean,
And
Hollywood really is the entertainment capital of the world. And if
yeah.
you want to do film and TV, I mean, it's getting easier to do in other places. But
Mhm.
basically, you had Hollywood, you had Bollywood, and you had Hong Kong. And then now it's starting to open up. But Bollywood was extremely, a walled nation unto itself. I mean, they weren't letting anyone in and they weren't letting anyone out. And Hong Kong kind of had the same thing up until I think John Woo, like Hard Boiled back in the mid 90s or something like that. I feel like was the first big film that kind of came west.
Yeah, it's been an uphill battle, I think, but I'm excited to see like the new type of cinema that's coming from that area, because a lot of it's great. And
Yeah.
I do a lot of horror and they excel
Yeah.
in that genre a lot of times. But yeah,
Oh
no,
yeah.
it's opening up now, but to truly, and maybe I didn't realize it when I was making the initial decision, because I still was like, New York is still on the horizon. But once I got here, the part of me that is fascinated by things I don't understand was like, oh wow, there's actually these opportunities here. You just have to be willing to take it
Yeah.
and have patience for the time frame to open up, which I lack a lot of patience.
Well, I mean, that it's
But I try.
funny. I used to, when I first moved out here, I don't know, within the first 2 years, my kind of take on LA was like, this is a town like that's just coked out. I don't know that everyone's taking coke or most people are taking coke, but it has this very frenetic, high pace kind of thing where everyone's trying to be really cool, but underneath, like everyone's going, shaking like this, trying to like, no, what's next? What am I going to do? Where's,
The
and
undercover side hustle. It's like,
yeah. And but that creates enormous amount of opportunity
mm,
in a multitude of different ways, outlets, avenues. And, someone who's outgoing can take advantage of those things because, I mean, it really is a city of opportunity. And, the old song, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere or whatever. I think that's BS because I've met a lot of people over the last, umpty million years that came out of New York and they did really
yeah,
well there. They did not do well here at all.
it is a whole different ball game. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's almost why I'm like, I'm glad that I came here from my personality type. Not that I won't ever end up in New York, because
Yeah.
as far as like theater and main stage theater, it's the place for
Yeah.
real.
I would say if I had any regrets, I wish I would have taken theater as a career seriously because I didn't understand there was a difference. I mean, I
Yeah.
understood what I was getting into. Movie making was this big, giant collaborative thing, this machine, this magic, and you could reach millions of people. And I was enthralled full in on that because I was hooked to the TV and hooked to the movie theater like none other. But I loved rehearsing plays. I loved the not the invention, the discovery, of doing a show
Yeah.
over and over and over again because it's just like, oh my God, how did I not see this, on day one or during, the during our tech run or something like that. And like that's an amazing thing unto itself. I think I would have been more fulfilled over the last 25 years, 30 years had I pursued theater as a career. Um, Even if I didn't have any more of a career in theater than I do in TV and film, because there's a whole like internal introspection and discovery, and you're constantly diving into material and questioning and talking to people and talking to other actors and writers about subtext and when it's appropriate to be on top and when it needs to be underneath. And like, you don't get those conversations in TV and film,
Well,
or at least not at my
and
level.
no, no, no. I don't feel like a lot of times you do get that. It's harder unless you're working with classic theater people, but
Yeah.
still I feel like that's more on a television show and probably more on a sitcom, because it lends to people who were brought up in the theater. And it
Yep.
was one of the reasons I didn't want to come here, because I thought filmmaking was like the easy way out until I actually understood the process of filmmaking. But as an actress, I was like, oh, I just don't get it. You're not in the moment of the energy and the time. And so I agree. There's part of me that's like, maybe I should have gone to New York. But that really comes down to who you actually want to be in life and what you actually want to
Yeah.
create. And that's something I had to evolve into seeing. But you know what? Life's not over, Michael. You can
Oh,
still
hell
go.
no. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But the interesting thing for what you said a second ago was you saw LA as this endless opportunity or unknown opportunity. Like
Mhm.
you thought you had a vision for what your life would be if you went to New York,
Right.
but you had no idea what LA held. And that enticed you and inspired you more. That's fascinating to me.
Well, I've made so many of my choices like that. And I'm just like, because people ask me, like, how did somebody once I was at a signing and it was
Mhm.
like for Scream Queens and horror, and the director was like, Tasha, how are you so normal and you're here? And I was like, I don't know how to respond to that until I thought about what he was trying to say. And it's like, I know the conventional choice that you will make, but is that the life I want? Like, I
Yeah,
remember, and it's like, I always, not always, but a high percentage of the time, I'm like, okay, let's just roll the dice. Let's see what happens. Because I
yep,
know what my end game looks like to a certain degree and what I'd like to develop. But as I took so many like odd steps, I feel like it only enhanced what I could possibly do in the future and what I could contribute, if that makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah,
And I see so many different, by taking this route, I mean, everybody wants to be in a gazillion-dollar movie. Everybody wants to be, the queen of Law and Order. I would love that job. But I was afforded so many opportunities to meet so many different type of artists who are all doing it for a different reason.
hmm,
And that interests me.
yeah.
And like what makes people go, because the reality is you can be an actor your whole life and never be Keanu Reeves. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh
You
yeah.
can
And you can be extremely successful,
never,
well paid, cushy life actor and not ever be,
nice
and
cars, nice houses, nice family, but never be like, so then what's the purpose? And that's what I got enthralled in doing, like indie films. Like I
yeah.
did a lot of like alternate indie cult scream queen, like, and I couldn't, like, people have asked me like why, and I'm like, I don't know. I liked the way that they did the special effects. I thought it was neat, or I liked the freedom
Well,
that people.
it's interesting because I feel like independent films like that are also a much bigger unknown. Like if you're getting on like any of the big TV shows that I've done, like I did Mad Men, right? So I go to the fitting, I do all of that, and when I got on Mad Men, like Mad Men was like I did fourth season, so it was like the biggest show on TV at that point in
Sure,
time, and I
sure.
thought there was no way in hell I'm getting on this show, and I don't know why. I just was like, this is the last show I'm ever going to get an audition for, and then I got an audition for it. Never gone in for that casting director before. Went into the room, met I'm blanking on his name. How horrible. Uh, uh, Anthony, no, Weiner, the show creator,
If you make
producer.
it up, I wouldn't even know.
He's in the room, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the creator of the show. And I do my little bit, and he basically gives me the job right there in the room, and he stops himself and says, okay, like right as he was about to say, we'll see you on set or at films or whatever, he stops himself and he's like, okay, thanks. We'll be in touch. I was like, did I just get the job? Like that was so weird. And I left. And by the time I got home, I had a voice message saying that I was on hold for the show. And everything after that was very pro forma. The wardrobe, the trailer, hair and makeup. The only thing that was a little bit surreal is like seeing January Jones sitting and getting her makeup done, or being on set. John Slannery is producing that episode, so he's like sitting there. I'm like, hi, like oh my god. But it was very just these are the steps. This is what happens. This is what everything. Dinner or lunch. Certain time. Like it was a machine. It was a well-oiled machine. It was amazing to be a part of, but it was very predictable. It
Right.
was not a what's happening. There was not like a lot of creativity popping. It was just like, this is the show. The actors that do their thing are so in their characters. The producers, the lighting, the grips, everyone just like they know their shit.
Mhm.
And you get on an independent film and it's Wild West. You have no idea what's going to happen. You don't know, like, are we going to stick to the script today? Are we going to rewrite
I
the
know what's
pages?
going on. Like
Yeah.
when I give people advice for those film shoots, it's like I'm like, really be invested in your character because your lines, they're subjective. Um, yeah, no, it's definitely like an interesting realm, and I'm like, for as mainstream, I haven't done as many mainstreams, but I've done a lot of commercials,
Yeah.
and commercial mainstream's the same thing. It's like you go in, you get your script, they put you where you put you in your makeup, You shoot the same line 5,000 times. They cut the commercial together and one word of your line is in there. You've won.
Yeah.
Now you can eat for a year. Okay,
Yeah.
keep on moving. And that's
Yeah.
all. It's and that's great because all of those jobs are really great. And I think that Mad Men's a cool show for you to been on.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it's
yeah,
still one of those things. It's still being on that. It's kind of like, huh, I did that show, and people still like, over the pandemic, people were like, "Hey, I was watching Mad Men. Are you in Mad Men?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
you're like,
It's the
yep, that's me.
strangest thing. Yeah. Um,
Awesome.
but doing, going back to why you came to LA, it's that unknown. I kind of feel like, at least what I'm hearing from you, and feel free to totally disagree, but I feel like you're drawn to the those lower budget, those indie projects, the beef horror films, because there's a lot of unknown and you get to create in a way that you wouldn't get to do, or collaborate in a way you wouldn't get to do.
Well,
I'm kind of asking more than
oh yeah. I
saying,
mean,
but
I think there's two ways to the street. So part of it is, yeah, I thought it was neat. I ended up producing a lot of that and creating my own because I am a filmmaker. So it's like that, but also we have a different battle in the industry. So when I came here too, I was hit with a lot of there's a lack of diversity in the industry, and not to go down that road, but as
there's like a
much as
women in the industry too at that point in time, though. I
well,
mean, it
but as
was,
much as I present a certain way, no casting director in this town would think I presented in the mainstream of Caucasian.
yeah,
So it was a little harder battle for me. So me coming from such an artistic background, like I'm out there auditioning, I'm out there getting my avails and my holds and all that.
hmm,
But at that point in time, it was a more uphill battle. So I was like, I want to work. So even when I got my first film, it's like, it was the first time I was offered after the read, do you want the role? And nobody had that question because
yeah,
they can be more open-minded and they can like take a chance.
yep,
And that made me happy as an actress because you always want to hear you got the job. And
yeah, oh, hell yeah,
it's such like 12,000 auditions, you get one job. I mean, like, so like you want the opportunity for someone to say, yes, you're good. I recognize it. And I'm hiring you because you're good and you fit this part, not because you're not hitting all these boxes or whatever,
yeah.
whatever. And I try not to have anger on that or whatever. But
It's hard sometimes,
I do
though.
recognize.
I don't think you can. I mean, there's a difference between having anger and holding on to anger, the way I look at it, because I've never given myself a hard time about being angry. I will give myself a hard time about holding on to it,
Mhm.
because I want to honor my own feelings. And I feel like anytime I see, a friend or even someone I don't know who's beating themselves up about something, like, how long have you been beating yourself up? Has it been long enough? Okay, good. Let it go. You've done that. Now go be happy, or, take what you learned, figure out, what you gleaned from it or whatever.
Well, my version of doing that is finding another option
Oh, nice.
because it's like, and that's where I opened up to like indie films. Like the first cult film I did, cult indie, literally, I've told the story a million times, but I thought I was going to die on the set. Like I had no idea what was going on because it's a completely different genre of film,
Hmm.
and it's not like mainstream television, and it's not like mainstream films. Definitely not like commercials. So you're learning a different style of acting, and I literally was so freaked out about it, but I leaned into it because I was like, well, this is the opportunity I have now. So let
Yeah.
me make the best of it. Let me
Yeah.
see the light. And I don't want to say completely like make lemonade out of lemons, but let me see the brightness in this moment because
Yeah.
I am the lead. But
Yeah.
also it's
Which is
like,
awesome.
well, I always I always love that, but we all love that. But I mean like, but it's also like I'm not competing with the other side. I'm in a different world, but it's an opportunity. And it kind of changed my perspective on how I went for projects. So did I still audition for everything mainstream?
Yeah.
Yes, I still do. But it's like, where was the opportunity coming? And I was like, instead of fighting it and crying over it and thinking, oh, this is not what I wanted, let's embrace it. Maybe I'm here for a reason. Like, and I took that more in. So I learned a lot more about independent films. Plus, I have a very, again, adventurous personality, but I have a sense of humor for things. I know when things are ridiculous, but sometimes you need to lean in because our lives out here, actors, artists, whatever, an uphill battle. It
Yeah.
gets
It can
difficult.
be
So if you
brutal. Yeah.
yes, if you can laugh a little bit at what you're doing, then
So
it makes it more worth it.
quick little side squirrel laughter, because I think is we've known each other for at least 10 years, I think longer.
Yeah.
But my recollection is you've always had this great sense of humor, and you're always, like, no matter how stressed things are, you're able to joke and laugh about it, diffuse. Um, was that from as a child? Was that from your parents? Like, do you know if that's always been there?
I my parents aren't particularly funny. Um, I'm the second child, so I'm sure sociologists will say that I have a different perspective on things.
Right.
But I I think it's the way I dealt with things because I was hit with a lot of things that I would never expect to judge anyone else on, but
Mhm.
it came at me, and instead of crying, because you're an artist, you're sensitive, I would have to again find a different way to deal with it. And so if you can't beat them, join them. Like
Yeah.
find the humor in it and throw it back in their face. And that's like me
God,
fighting
that's
as a child.
funny.
As an adult, I've evolved that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think within my family always wanted me to just shut up because I just was constantly talking, constantly asking questions. But within my school friends and or sports or plays or doing whatever I was doing, uh, I don't think I was ever asked to shut up, but I was asked to or be silent. Well, in class I was a lot. That was a different situation, but I was made fun of a lot. I was the butt of a lot of jokes, and
Mhm.
um, I definitely leaned into that. And I don't know that I've really thought about that as where how I got good at like diffusing the stress and the tension, because
Mhm.
there's no way I would be sitting here right now. There's no way I would have, I would still go on auditions if I wasn't able to laugh about how ridiculous it is being, I've been out here for 20, almost 22 years now. I had my first professional audition 27 years ago, or something like that, in DC. Like, there's no way I'd still be sitting here auditioning and doing things and being in front of the camera if I couldn't laugh at myself. And there's nothing anyone can say that I haven't already thought of about myself, you know?
Sure. But that's the resilience that I feel like you have to do what we do. But I say that for me and you. But I mean, I've also been in places in the same thing where people won't speak up, they won't give their
Yeah.
opinion. I was in an acting class, and it's it's always very funny, especially when I'm producing shows, that people don't assume that about me. And when I'm taking acting class, of course I'm humble because I'm not the boss there.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
a student. So I'm not going to be like, and I'm so great. I mean, I'm sure some people would be, but I remember we were
Yeah, I've met
discussing
those people. So yeah, they're they're out there too.
they exist.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like, we were doing a scene in class, and we were discussing how I portrayed it or whatever. And it's like, in class, you just have to take what people are saying and understand
Hmm.
what they're saying. And I remember the acting teacher made like the snide comment, like, when you're in the room or whatever. And I was like, I just ran 10 auditions yesterday. Like, and I was like, oh, and they were like, Tasha, just don't fight with him. He knows what he's talking about, because none of them knew what I was doing. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like, take it in, let it go, laugh about this moment because you're definitely writing it in something, and keep on moving, because these people, nothing against them, but you're not, you don't have the same things in common. Like what you're
Right.
striving for are different.
Right.
And I'm never going to strive to not say something about something. But on the other hand, I was also like, I'm the student here and I'm just stating a point.
Yeah.
So
And
it,
actors, and you as an actor, as a performer, you need that ability to be in a quote unquote safe place. That's say, I think safety third. And because you need the input, you need the external awareness that you can't do for yourself. And so even if they are off base, completely crazy, you're still going to understand and calibrate what they're giving you and I mean, I'm assuming you do this because, the way your mind works, you're going to be able to take in whatever they're giving you and process it through the filter of, okay, this person has these prejudices, doesn't understand this about the business. And, and they've given these other people this type of critique. So I know that when he says this, or this, I can take it this way. And this is valuable because now I have a gauge. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I've done. So I'm assuming that's what you do.
And that's what I did do.
Yeah.
But I recognize that, but I'll still say something. I mean,
Yeah.
I won't say, oh, this is why I know. I'll still ask questions about it because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to learn. I paid my money just like everybody else,
Yeah.
but I find a lot of times that people may not so much. And that's what I was trying to get. It's like we've learned how to take things in, kind of process them, like you're saying, and then react to it. And humor is often that, because sometimes you're like in your head steaming, like, you don't know what I know, but you can't, because that's not why you're there.
No,
And
exactly.
having the discernment to know why, but also having the experience to know that not everybody's going to do or try to get out of experiences what you are when it comes to
Yeah.
like acting or
Well, and there's
performing.
also, I mean, unlike other industries, there are not strict standards for how an audition is going to be run or how a set's going to be run. There are some conventions and there are some, I guess you'd call them standards even, but like from set to set, everything kind of is different. The politics and the energy and how you feel and who's really in charge, like, like all that's changes on every single project. Like, and the good sets are the sets where everyone knows exactly what role they're playing and who the boss is, and how high they need to jump if someone says jump, and or or roll their eyes if that's appropriate. And on the bad sets, everyone's testing to see where the boundaries are, and it slows things down and creates massive headaches. Like, that's kind of
Yeah,
my perspective on.
and I think we always, when we're like going for that dream, you're always hoping you're on the good set. But
Yeah.
it's like I've heard stories from my friends who like they fought to get this great job, this on a nice TV series, a lot of money, and they were like, it was hell. I hated it. I almost quit my career after. Like I've heard horror stories, and I'm like, not that I want to put the knife in tighter, but I'm like, did it suck that you took 1,000 auditions to get this much?
So you could be miserable. You're
Right?
living your dream in misery.
Has your dream been recognized yet?
Yeah. It's such a weird industry. And I I understand why people self-destruct, and I understand, why, like, I don't like it and I would love to change it. I would love to, some doors need to be opened back up, some doors need to be stay closed, but I feel like, I'm trying not to be overly specific about anything
Sure, of course, of course.
because that's the nature of the industry. Um, but the industry changes, I think, more so, or will change more so, because of the actors who have power. The ones that are producing are going to actually say, wait, we want better for everyone, because it's that's I don't know. I feel like that's kind of like, culture trickles down. I don't know that money ever does, but culture definitely trickles down.
Well,
And
go ahead.
yeah, I think that's my full thought is I want, I always want more for the actors, for the performers, because whether they're musicians, dancers, stunt people, because I feel like those people have a certain amount of gravitas on stage, on screen, on set, and it's kind of up to them. It's up to us to say this isn't safe, or we really need to go deeper here, or whatever. And then I think the money will follow that if that becomes the norm.
I think that was one of my perspectives in actually saying yes to some of the producing jobs that I've done,
Yeah.
because they've all been very interesting. But one of the reasons is because since I've been on both sides, I mean, side note, producing is not my favorite thing in the world, but I hate it when people are taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And even on the like the less mainstreams, on indies, on my shows, like that was a common practice, and it
Oh yeah.
really bothered me. And some of the network rules in it, I
Yep.
just, you have to start somewhere. And anybody who's worked with me knows I may be smiling, but if my answer is no, it's no. Okay. Because I
Yeah.
have to look out for everybody, and I have to
Yeah.
really think about it on a, and so sometimes it's a super hard job, but I also think it's super important for somebody who's not afraid, like, to
Yeah.
get up there. Like, these are standards and practices that we need to follow. And if we're not there yet, we need to strive towards that.
And I think
And
that's probably more what I'm getting at than anything else, is that respect, that mutual respect. Don't take advantage of your position of power. I don't, because it's not, sometimes these things get, made into, a male or female or, underling, day player. But I think it's just, it's not as bad as it used to be, but when I first got out here, 20 years ago, there was a definite current of, I have the power and you toe the line. You're either my bitch or get the hell out of here. And like, that was kind of the general sentiment, the overriding sentiment when I've, in the first few years I was out here. And it was scary because it was like, how is this okay? And how am I going to figure this out? And not everyone can be like this. Surely, Spielberg can't be like this. Surely, like I had all these, you know, ideas of people, and I haven't worked with Spielberg, so I'm assuming he's as lovely as everyone says he is.
mhm.
But Weinstein was not the only one. Weinstein
No, he was.
went to jail, but he was not the only one. And that those producers worked with a lot of people and they worked on a lot of different shows. So you might have had an amazing director or amazing EPM or amazing cast or whatever crew, but one producer that has this old mentality of, I have the power, and if I don't have the power, then all of you are going to suffer. Like, and I feel like that's changing finally, but that was what it was like when I first got out here. I felt like.
It well, and I agree. And I think, like, I think some things are changing for sure, but I also think that's one of the reasons I did lean the way that I did too, because there's more control there, you
Yeah.
know. And I also, one of the reasons I get behind a lot of the social media and people getting out there, because they're taking control, and they're taking control of their art is also changing the industry, because the industry follows money.
Yep.
And so if people can get out there and control their own art and really make a good product that will sell, which is their product, not they
Mm-hmm.
are the product,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
under good practices, then it almost, that's the way I feel you force the hand for
Mm-hmm.
change, is because you have to affect it at the bottom line.
Yep.
And if so many people are enthralled with doing their own thing and they don't want to deal with these other people, it starts making them irrelevant. Now,
Yep.
does that happen overnight? No. Are there still bad people out there? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
But
But do you think? I mean, this is, well, we'll go for there for half a second, and then we'll get back on track, because we've kind of gone down this scroll path. Um, I keep on seeing every celebrity, or as soon as someone kind of hits that certain level, all of a
mhm,
sudden PGA is behind their name. Producers Guild of America. These
mhm,
actors. Chadwick Boseman, before he passed, he did 16 Bridges, I think.
mhm,
I went to see it because, like, I knew this was their attempt to find out, okay, is he going to be a billable movie star? We're going to put him in a cookie cutter, kind of detective, action thing. And let's find out, where he stands. And I think he did a great job. But at the end of the film, I saw PGA next to his name. He was Producers Guild of America. And I'm like, God, he's barely out of the gate. He's done one big film and he's already, on the other side. Is this a good thing? Like,
well, I think he's a horrible example for your question because I think he's classically trained and I think he's more business minded than what people knew.
Yeah.
But
He was incredibly savvy, smart.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that he invested more in his career as an artist and not just an actor. So I think he might have known more about what he was bringing to the table as a
Mhm.
producer. A lot of times it's a negotiation for an actor at that higher level to put their name on as a producer, and it changes the cut in which they come
But
through. And they're
but not
it's
PGA. Like being a member of the PGA is a whole nother thing. Was
just
my understanding.
if you're in the guild, sure, but it doesn't mean that it's not a negotiation tip for a
Okay,
big star to
fair
maybe
enough.
take less money in the beginning, or a lot of, even on the indie level, when I brought in names, they will ask for executive producer credits, and it won't necessarily change a huge part of like their money take,
Hmm.
but it's also a stepping stone for them to say, but I executive produced this,
Right.
but I'm stepping up. So it's more of a stepping stone. I like Chadwick Boseman. I think I wish he hadn't passed. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was
I
amazing.
think that he would have gone into more of creating entertainment, still as an actor, but also having a hand in putting out certain stories.
Hmm.
But not all actors are like that. A lot of times, even if they join the Producers Guild, I mean, like, I'm not trying to put anybody in blast. It doesn't mean that they're the biggest hand in producing the film.
Right.
And what they
Right.
trade for producing is maybe bringing in their friends or whatever. I mean, I don't want to
Hmm.
put anybody in blast because I don't
Well,
know any,
but that's
but
like
I
I've seen definite like examples of that where being a producer is just getting more money. It's not getting more power necessarily or more decisions over things. But
or if you see a name that you know on a producing credit, that's enough for them to get that credit because people are like, oh, so and so is doing this. They're
mm,
producing it. Hell yeah, I'm gonna see it. Like no matter, so that's they're part of marketing. That's what
yeah,
they're bringing to the table as a producer, and it's viable money wise. It doesn't mean they're physically producing, um, but they are bringing a viable piece of the pie.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, obviously, they went down the path where the only reason why they became Matt Damon and Ben Affleck is because they were writing and producing and really getting into the mix. They would have never got where they are had it not been for that.
But they're a horrible example because they're not doing it just for credit. No, but they're doing it because they went out and they produced their film and
Yeah,
they got the money. And like I love the Good Will Hunting story because that's more of a realistic story for someone to make a big movie that's nobody. And yes, they
yep,
had acting credits, but they were nobodies.
yep,
They're true producers and creators and direct. It wasn't surprising to me that Ben Affleck started directing, like none of
yep.
that, because they had to put in that level of skill to break through.
Oh yeah.
And horrible
Well,
examples.
well, they're a good example on the other side though,
Yeah, good
because
example
yeah,
for people who did it. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
love this story all the time. I loved Good Will Hunting. It was a story I feel like Hollywood would have never made without prompting.
yeah.
Their passion created that story, and it changed, the landscape of filmmaking to a degree where other stories had a space that
Hmm.
wouldn't isn't an action film or a horror film or a love comedy, whatever. Um, it's just like this true human story,
Hmm.
and they really did the work and really did come as putting together a project and truly
Yeah.
producing it. But
And
but
then
that's
it
not a
continued down that path too, which is proof that it wasn't just a flash in the pan. It wasn't just okay, boys, we'll give you this one. It's like, no, they've stayed on that path. So I do commend them for that.
yeah, and they're filmmakers to me.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, let's get back to you because I feel like
okay.
we got this scroll. We started
So
just
the business talk is over.
yeah. Well, you were going down a path a little bit with me on um your counselor at college
For
and like
sure.
what are you doing here? And was it that easy of a decision between him and your friend saying come out here, sleep on my couch? Was there
I
anything
thought
else in the decision process?
Well, I thought about it because I was gonna go. Like I already knew I was gonna go. And I thought about it after he said it, and I was like, he's the only person I respected at my school. It's
Mm,
such an uphill battle. And then it just made sense in that. And my dad did say, like, why would you be there? Like, what's it going to do for you? And so I did put it all together, and I was like, I'm out of here, because it's true. I can finish college in California. It's
Yeah.
cheaper once you're a resident.
Yep.
And I was like, and I'm an art major. Like, and the time to really, if you can start your career, is in that earlier prime to like get it going. So I was like, what am I doing here? I was like, the next adventure awaits. So I
For
made the
sure.
plan. I saved the money. And I think before, I think it was a 4-month plan in my head. I worked 12,000 jobs, saved all my money, got a map, which I'm horrible at, getting. I'm terrible with that. The Thomas guy was my kryptonite. And then I, talked to 2 of my friends who wanted to go cross country. And I was like, all right, cool. We're
Let's do this.
going this date. And I just did it. And I know that I hear people say, like, oh, that's a lot. I'm like, is it? It's just a decision. But it's like everybody has their own path. But for
Well,
me, it was just once I decided to do it, I was going to do it.
which is awesome. And I think what I'm hearing though is that you also didn't spend a lot of time on why not to. You just spent a lot of time on how to and why to. So like
Yeah.
you
And
knew
do I
you knew
want?
what your why was.
Yeah.
And then you figured out how. And then once you figured out how, it was like, well, what else is stopping me? I figured out how to pay my bills. I have a place to stay. I have a car that's going to get me there. I'm assuming you maybe not went down that specifically of the list, but you kind of figured out what you needed and you're like, well, there's really no reason not to.
Right. And I was like, if it doesn't work, I can always go back to New York.
Yeah.
Like I can, oh, that option is in my head. I was like, there's no failure if I have a way out.
Yeah.
Like if my second option is actually my first option, then, let me try this out, see what it's about, see
Yeah.
what I think. And
There's
then if I
a
don't,
quote from one of Zach Braff's films. I like one of his second films that he was writing or directing or whatever. And it was something to the effect of, I think it was the father character saying to him, you can't fail as long as you're still in the game. So like, and that's not the exact quote, but as long as you're willing to, go another round, then you haven't failed yet. And I feel like part of me for staying out here this long is like, I'm not failing, God damn it. I'm just still working at it
I'm
and
just
finding a new
adjusting.
way.
I'm finding a new opportunity, which
Yeah.
I get frustrated. Come on, we all get frustrated. It's hard. And there's a lot of injustices. We dance around it, but there are, and there are. And but then if you live this long and you've had whatever level of success you have to make a decision. Am I moving to Kansas and buying a farm, or am I going to some other place and becoming an accountant? And if I'm not, then this is my life.
Yeah.
And I need to do the best I can with it and get over the craziness, because I am a perfectionist. So I do get bothered, but it's like, I look at what I have done compared to what I could have done. And then I see other people's lives. I'm like, do I want that? Even if they have material things that I may want right now, I'm like, do I really want that? Would I wanted to go that route? And if my answer is always no, then there has to be something here that is worth it for me to fight for.
Absolutely.
And we are designing our own lives. So it's a fun life. Like, I always think about it in memoirs and on your tombstone, like what people are going to say about you. And I've got some pretty interesting things. I think I have a decent level memoir going on. So that's when I get upset, I think, oh, sorry, wait for this to go by. Oh, Hollywood.
Oh, right next to you. I was thinking it was already passed. I was like, no, honk, honk.
No, it was still making it happen. It was still there. Yeah. So I have to take stock in that. And then again, think, all right, where's the other opportunity? What am I being drawn at? And what am I succeeding at? Because maybe that's where the next opportunity starts.
Yeah.
And I have to look at things like that. And I have done cool things, and I'm not dead.
No, but that's the thing. The ability to not be, I mean, like I said, I think it's great to allow yourself to have any emotion you're going to have, but then you have to say, okay, now what? Because you can't just keep on feeling for the sake of feeling. At some point in time, you have to move on. And it sounds like, just take stock in what's going on, and like through your inventory, you say, well, this is working, this isn't working, this, and then based on what's working, you then will make a choice in that direction. Was that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the direction is always surprising to me too sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do, because again, I think of it, if it goes back and this is all that life is, and I'm looking back on it, but I got to make it good. And
Yeah.
even if it's crazy and it's not what my envisionment was of it, at least it's cool. At least I want to buy my book.
Yeah. Right.
I have to look at it like that, because we would probably have mental breakdowns if we didn't. But I like who I am. I know I'm
Yeah.
insane, but I don't care. And at
My,
the end, you have to think about that. Like,
yeah,
do you care? And what type of people do you like? And it's like, if you like them with more interesting paths, you should be okay with yourself taking.
absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, if people aren't taking stock and aren't stopping to take inventory on what is working and what isn't working, then it's impossible for them to love themselves, let alone like themselves, because they're not taking enough time to go, oh shit, I did this, and this. Like, that's pretty good. And like, and then their mind might go to those 10 things they didn't accomplish, but it's like, how much do those really matter? Like, and in the grand scheme of things, they don't. Like like I've always been into kind of esoteric thought because I'm much more of a mental person. So the esoteric thought just really lends itself to deeper thinking and pondering.
Mhm.
Because if all there is just, this microphone, this computer, the chair that I'm sitting in, that's kind of boring for me. So like, I don't like that story. It's kind of dull. So I want more. So like that esoteric thought, gives me the ability to go deeper and think, on different levels. And there is not a single, person of esoteric thinking that will tell you that the most important thing is you need a really expensive car. Like, none of them are going to tell you that. So if, I find myself being, more drawn towards that type of thinking, which means if I never have a $200,000 car, a Rolls Royce or whatever, 400,000, well, I don't know, whatever they are, it's like,
Yeah.
big deal. Would I really enjoy it that much? It's like, ooh, I go fast. Oh wait, there's traffic. I gotta stop. It's like, like, what's the
I
point?
know. I totally agree with you. And I was like, even in the times, because I know you probably the same, you go up and down with like your successes.
Hmm.
So what are you going to spend your money on? And I have rarely, I mean, I've bought cars that I've liked, but no $200,000 car.
Yeah,
That's just stupid to me.
yeah.
Um, but I've gone on trips, or I've gone to see things, or I've taken time to create something. It's like, these are the luxuries to me. Like, do I like nice dresses? Yes. Do I want to go to the spa? Of course. But okay, I do that once and it is, but
Yeah.
it's been more about going to see new things, or trying to
Hmm.
create something new, or having experience. And that's what I see as more luxury. But you don't have to be in this like pinnacle thought process in your head of how much money you should be worth to do it. You can do
Right.
it, you just have to figure out how to do it.
So,
The other thing is, okay.
well, no, go ahead and finish. I've got a question along those lines though, because I don't know if I've asked anyone this before, and so it's kind of a curious thing. But finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say, I've met people who've hit the pinnacle of where they thought they should be money wise,
Hmm.
and they're still like, oh, it wasn't what I thought it was. I mean, they enjoy nice toys and
Sure.
nice opportunities, but they're like,
It's a lot of fun
okay.
to go out on a boat or, sit in the hot tub in your backyard or, whatever. But
They're still looking for the meaning of life, just like everybody
yeah,
else is.
exactly. Okay. So along the lines of what we're talking about as far as wealth and spending money, self-worth, I think, comes into the equation. And knowing it's a weird thing to know your self-worth and then not be able to command the commensurate salary or day rate or whatever that goes along with that, because the institution or maybe the money's just not there, or the institution is designed in such a way that sorry, you've not had any serious regulars in the last 10 years or whatever, the new stigma is, therefore we're only paying you scale, like, or whatever it might be. So how do you deal with, like, because you've had an enormous amount of success doing what you do, on other people that have done the equivalent, the same amount of work, the same amount of mental energy, the same amount of creativity, might be making $100,000 a year, or excuse me, $100 million a year, where you're not making $100 million a year. So like, but in truth, I really do believe this. The amount of work that you've done, the amount of energy and intellectual pursuit, the creativity is equal to that of, someone who's making hundreds of millions of dollars, or at least millions and millions of dollars a year. It's on the same par, but your self-worth shouldn't be any less just because you're not making that money. So how do you deal with that in your mind, that dichotomy?
Okay, so it is a dichotomy in how I deal with it. On the side that has to deal with it on just like the superficial level, it's hard. It's very, very hard. Wait, hold on. I know.
Sunday, it's
One crazy time
Sunday in
happened.
Hollywood.
On the superficial level, it's hard to deal with sometimes because I'll say the child in you is like, why am I not making this money? I work just as hard. I mean, there's, again, female in the industry, there are some other, things that stand in your way, but still the process is the same when you're getting upset about it. When I'm getting upset about it, like, yeah, I should be a gazillionaire, I should possibly have my own mini yacht,
Yeah.
but I don't. And
Or not
it's
mini.
hard.
Maybe
Or
full
not
yacht.
mini.
Yeah.
And it's hard because also you'll find that people who are focused on the material level of thinking will start looking down on you. And I've had it happen a lot, and it's a little hard to take in. I mean, there's a school of thought like, don't fight people who don't really understand. There's no point in doing that. And I recognize that, but it is still hard because they're looking at you like, oh, like you haven't done anything. I'm like, well, I do have a resume online, so there's that, and I have done. But on the other side, this is me when I cry to myself. When I give other people advice, oh, we all do it. We all cry to ourselves.
Oh
like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like there's so many things I could tell you as an injustice, how much I hate people who don't hate them, but hate that they judge me.
Yeah, right.
Because they think because of the way I look or because of the way I'll present sometimes that I nowhere near what I've done. But when I'm giving somebody else advice, I always say, like, it's not attached to your self-worth. Your creation is, and what you feel about how you created. Also, sometimes and oftentimes I feel money is not always attached to the self-worth or the creative ability or your experience and potential of ability. It's not always, because how many times do they say, and I don't want to say anything rude, but the mediocre rises to the top. Okay. People do say that.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna dot. But so you can't look at it. And the way I try to tell people is maybe you're looking in the wrong direction to get the monetary balance. Like stay strong in your self-esteem and your self-worth because you are creating something that you love. And if it's not at your level, keep creating. Trust me, I am a picky person for myself. And keep creating it, but don't always feel like what you're creating has to be attached to your money because it's actually different. So you might be able to find that monetary experience
Yeah.
success in a different place.
Yeah.
And that's where the money's going to come, and the
Yep.
artistry will go coincide with it. But maybe you need to
But they
look at a
won't
different
necessarily
form.
be. Yeah, I love that, because I mean, I do think there are certain professions that, and some of those professions can be artistic
Mm.
in nature, that are directly tied to salary, money coming in. But then there's other artistic endeavors that are in no way, shape, or form tied to money. And if you try to tie them to money, it gets really sticky, complicated, fast, because you start judging your work by money instead of by quality or content or what have you. And
I actually have the most incredible example, not to cut you off, but of
go for it.
this, of how this works. So I've worked with a Latin rapper for years. We've done
Mhm.
films together, back and forth. And we worked together over the pandemic. Everybody was tested, it's fine. But it's like, I was sitting there talking, I hadn't seen him in 2 years because of all the craziness. And we were talking about money and making money in the industry. And he's a platinum selling artist. And he
It's
goes,
awesome.
Tasha, do you think I make money off my music? And I was like, wait, what? He was like, I do make money. He was like, I do make it. He was like, but I own bakeries. And it
Oh,
was the
wow.
most eye-opening conversations. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, I make good money off of music, but I really make, he's like, they buy my song once. It's 99 cents. They buy a donut and coffee every single day of the week.
So his
And
big
I,
money maker is bakeries. That's awesome.
which frees up his artist. He's like, I have a studio
Yeah.
in my house. If I want to put down a song, I'm going to do it. This conversation, I think so many conversations are meant to be when you're stuck in a place. And I was
Mhm.
probably in the dramatics of my mind during that time in the material level. And I was like, it was so eye-opening. It was someone I would not have expected to say that level of business. And he was like, I won't rely. He's like, I love my art, but I'm not relying on my art, you
Yeah.
know? And that's where it started really evolving my thought process of what your art is connected to and what your money making, your
Mhm.
money source. It can be separate and the same. One can filter the other, one can inspire the other. Because
Oh,
I do know,
absolutely.
now that I know what it is, I know why some of his lyrics came from where they did, you know?
Oh, that's so
But
funny.
oh, it was amazing. And I was like, what is my bakery? I need to figure that out. And I think if we think of that as artists who are really truly pursuing the artist existence,
Yeah.
and the monetary isn't showing up, don't look at your self-esteem, look at your quote unquote bakery.
Yeah.
What's that going to be? And something else that you like that you can sell, that isn't your full passion, but
Yep.
it's driving your passion. So everything's
Yep.
working together.
Yeah, you have to have, I mean, I wish I had understood this 20 years ago. You
Me too.
have to have a reliable income stream, if not five, if you really want to be a successful, whatever successful means, artist.
Mhm.
Because art is very expensive. And if you don't have a consistent stream of revenue, then you don't get to create.
Right.
And that's, technology is making it easier and easier and easier, but we still live in that world. I mean, it goes back to, Da Vinci and Raphael and all those Donatello, all those guys, all those amazing artists. They had benefactors. They had people paying their bills, paying them to do great art, paint, sculpt, so forth. And the studio system in Hollywood used to exist to kind of replicate that, but they took advantage of people. People were animals. They were, I mean, indentured servants, essentially.
Mhm.
And, there was no respect. I think if that system existed again with a level of respect and a level of checks and balances to, you know, keep people, giving people their own agency, it could possibly come back and excuse me, have a have a place again. It could be beneficial, possibly. I'm not saying I want the
Well,
studio system come back, but if people had their own agency and there was a level of respect of humanity, I think that system wouldn't be the worst system in the world.
Well, the studio system is selling actors as the product.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like, they're like, we're the marketer, you're the product. We're going to sell you as a product.
Yeah.
But when I'm saying, as the actor or the artist taking control of their life needs to sell a product of some
Hmm.
sort, whatever that equals, then they can create, and it gives them that freedom. Whereas the studio system, they're creating, they're the creator,
Well, that's the
you
way
know?
it was. I'm saying, I think, like, in my head, there's and I've played with this idea before, and I obviously I haven't worked it out in a way that's doable. But in my head, and in the ideal scenario, um, actors would have agency. There are individuals in a community, and the community still needs to function as a community. There's an attachment that needs to, or a symbiotic relationship that needs to take place for it to be healthy. The
Mhm.
studio system, the way it existed, was not healthy. It was not symbiotic. It was parasitic. And I think
It could
for
be.
yeah, and I think if there was a way of creating a symbiotic relationship where the individual artist had agency, and autonomy, but still was a part of the community, I think more money would flow and more people would be able to make a living again, because there's the working class actor doesn't exist anymore. Like, you either make several $100,000 a year,
Yeah.
or more, which is like 6% of the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA, or you make less than $15,000 a year.
Right. But that's where I think, or around the way that I did, where a lot of my choices came in, because the
Mhm.
agency is, if you can build a strong enough independent, then you can be Ben Affleck and, Matt Damon. Like, that's what they did. They basically, even though they came from a certain level, but it's also, I think, what's helping now, and I think that opportunity is coming up, is the social media. And it's
Yeah.
like, as much as people want to come down on it, what at the end of the day truly funds everything? Advertising,
Yeah.
selling. So these people who are finding strength at social media or through the independent market where they can market out, and the sales direct,
Mhm.
they are creating enough of a change in the market that the advertisers have to take stock in it.
Oh yeah.
And the studios are starting to do more links with independent creators again.
Yeah.
There was a time, I feel like, in like the 90s, that they're kind of playing with it, and there was more, but that was in like,
Yeah.
tapes and stuff
I think
were
I think
available.
it's interesting because I think you're right. The social media and the YouTubes and Vimeo's still trying to play in the game.
They're still in
Um,
it for certain
yeah,
levels.
for certain
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I think they're more niche. Facebook, offers, a certain amount of ability to get content out there.
Mhm.
Twitter's doing, what they can right now. There used to be Periscope. I don't think Periscope still exists, but like, it is interesting because it does force advertisers to say, wait, we can get highly targeted marketing and advertising to an audience very specifically that likes spearfishing.
Mhm.
And they were never able to do that, you know, 10 years ago, even, I don't think. It was difficult. It was too expensive to market to spearfishers. I don't know why I picked them as an example. Because it's a highly specific niche
Right,
thing,
right.
where now there's an entire world of spearfishing and freediving and those types of things that millions of people follow now, and they have an outlet.
And they're becoming all of those. So when you have your influencers or your people who create entertainment for that demographic, they're now becoming a viable marketplace, which
Yeah.
it's going to take money away. And I believe it has taken away money from the bigger
Oh,
entities, where
absolutely.
they have to bridge the gap,
Hmm.
and they have to open up a little bit. That's why a lot of companies, I believe, have the streaming service. Why Roku is very attractive to independent
Yeah.
creators, and to market, like, even Tubi. I even feel Tubi brings back so much old content that nobody's quote unquote watching, but people
Yeah.
are watching it. And why Amazon, because Amazon, if you have something small and independent, as long as it gets approved, can go on the
Yeah,
marketplace.
no, that's true.
And
Amazon is good about that. Like, it's not going to be. they're not going to pump it. You're going to have to do all of your own marketing and advertising and PR and so forth, but they will give you a platform. And to my knowledge, it's still free, like as long as you pass their basic standards, which usually are more technical than anything else.
Right. And I think it's just a percentage on sales or something like that.
Yeah.
I have to really look it up, but those opportunities have to be taken seriously in the industry. I'm sure it would have also prompted those platforms to create their own content.
Yeah.
But they've had to bridge the gap, because as soon as you start changing the money demographics, then it gives them more opportunity to take more agency of your career, and as an artist to give you more power.
Yeah.
And that's what I think I see is shifting. It's not fast paced or anything, but it
No.
is shifting. It is
What
becoming more
happens really fast? I mean, the only time I feel like anything happens really fast is when blood is shed. And whether it's, I mean, not necessarily literal blood, but like, someone's offered up as a sacrifice, whether it's literal or figurative to some extent. And I feel like then things happen faster. But even like the Me Too movement, as fast as that movement spread, not much changed that fast. A few people, were put up on pikes. Um, you know, I mean, everyone knows who, those handful of people were. A bunch of other people were named, but quickly disappeared. And then probably some of the worst people, I have no way of knowing this, but I'm going to guess there's still a lot of people that weren't named, that are still, holding powerful positions and are just trying to do maybe a little bit better than they did before to fly under the radar. And as much as I could get mad at that, I also have to be hopeful that things are changing. They're never changing fast enough. And it's at least we're seeing change. And then if we can just keep on pushing, then, maybe it's our grandkids, hopefully it's sooner than that for a lot of these things. But,
I think for this type of platform, like, yeah, it's like your calling. So we all have to fight it to a certain degree. It's there, it's alive and well. Trust me, I've dealt with it. But it's not everybody's calling to make it their main,
right.
their main fight. However, the way that I handle it is that everything I'm involved with, I put as much change as possible in there.
Yeah.
And I stand my ground, because that's how I'm contributing. And then I try to build community off of people with that strength and work with community. And I think that there's a lot of hot air propaganda that gets put out when a cause is first on the street, and the intention
there's
is
money to be made on it, sadly, but
right.
I really think that's a lot of where the hot air comes from. Is there people want to make money off of this movement? They're like, hey, why shouldn't we profit from this, is what some people are thinking. And
Well, it is, but it's also like, yes, I do think that,
I
but
know
it's
that
also,
sounds cynical, but it does happen.
I didn't know, and you're also a dude, so I mean, but
I'm not trying to make money off it though,
no,
but
no, no, no,
I'm just seeing it. I'm calling it out for what it is.
yeah, and it's like there are some people who are insensitive that I would truly think, oh, this trend is happening now. Oh, that trend is happening now. And you're never going to fully get ahead of that. You're never going to fully change everything, but you have to fully change it in your personal practice and keep pushing that forward. So I think when it comes to things like Me Too, and yes, I've dealt with it.
Well, honestly, I don't think, maybe some men didn't, but if you are even remotely attractive, dude, you dealt with it as well. Like I've have plenty of Me Too stories, but no one cares. Like I was literally told, you're a good looking white guy, get over it, on multiple occasions, which is
I do
fine.
understand that point. It's just, but if you and I are in the room, trust me, it's going to go more in your favor 9 times out of 10. So when it's not that I think it's right or wrong, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's just what needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to make your changes in your own life and keep that strong, because maybe it's not your calling to get the soapbox out and
Yeah.
to scream from the streets. The calling is to put action behind it, because I feel like a lot of thing is propagandized, and the intention may be an original desire, but the action isn't full of follow through. So we just got to do it in everyday practice. And that gives back also strength to creators,
Yeah.
female creators who aren't getting the love that they should have.
I
But
think the
not,
actionable bit is probably, I mean, at least in my mind, the way I'm thinking about it is the most important thing, because if all there is conversation and there's nothing, there's no ability to move forward, to take those steps and get somewhere,
Mhm,
then no change happens. No change can happen at that point.
right. And you have to stay strong on things like that. And for me, I'm sure that's why people don't like to mess with me, because it's like, I might be smiling at you, but we're doing it my way, because we need to represent everybody
Yeah.
who's involved in my sets. And that's another reason, like, even though I didn't always love the producing jobs I had, I felt like there is a point that I'm here because these people need to be
Hmm.
spoken for and they need to be handled properly. So if I'm here, I'm doing it.
But to a certain extent, I feel like that's also a cause that not only can you do, but you're willing to do, where it's like other people, it might be um, children's rights, or it might be animal rights, or it might be, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's only so much time and energy in a day. And there's only so much emotional energy anyone can put towards anything. So it's like, we do have to rely on each other to, say, hey, look, I'm going to support you in any way I can, but I may not come up with, I may not be in a position to do all of the things, but if I can be there for you, I'll be there for you. You know what I mean?
But that's you being in the community and being amongst the community that you're a part of, that
Yeah.
you're saying, yes, I'm behind the cause. I can't do, I mean, exactly. I can't
Stand
do,
up, be seen for what matters.
but yeah, but I'm in the community. I'll back you, but I can't plan the rally.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's someone to always plan the rally, but needs the numbers to come back them up.
Yeah.
So it's more of us finding community that is evolving and working together,
Hmm.
and not necessarily thinking that you have to do every change on your own, because it's impossible. And it's also like, if you don't have, say one day you're not feeling great about your life and you're like, so how are you going to be standing up for these other people? You need somebody else in your community to take that reign.
Yeah.
And like, nothing can be completely done by yourself, but you can take steps in your own life every day in your piece of the career that is in the
So
positive light.
when you pick a project, or when someone comes to you and says, hey, I want you to produce this with me, or produce this for me, or something along those lines, how do you vet them? Like, what do you do in order to kind of climb inside their head a little bit to make sure that they're going to back you and stand on your side, and or have a side that you value standing on?
Mhm.
Like, how do you determine that? Is it because it's always coming through friends of friends, or like what's that look like?
I'm trying to, I think, because I've never gone seeking these jobs. They found me. um,
So you're meant to do them, or at least that's my
yes.
esoteric mind thinking. You're meant to do this.
I always have to look at it, because there's a lot of times where people are not prepared for the level of work and design that comes together in putting together a project.
Hmm.
So I have to look at it. Do I like the project? Do I think it's interesting? And it doesn't mean it's going to win an Oscar or anything, or Spirit Award. Do I think it's interesting? Like, do I like the effects?
Yeah.
Do I like the genius of it? Do I like the director? I'm interested to see him work. I have to think about it, because a lot of times in the indie world, there's not $1 million coming together. There's
Right.
money, but so I've got to think: am I spending 14 hours a day doing something I completely hate, or am I going to learn something? Is this taking value into my next project, or something I want to create for myself? And so I look at all those aspects, and I've ended up with some very interesting jobs from that, but not ones that I loved.
Well, but no, but that's okay. That's an interesting thing, because obviously producing is not your first go-to. It's not like your ideal number one. I've got to produce. So there's always going to be an element of distaste or frustration, because that's part of the job. Is taking on the frustrating, aggravating things. So do you actually think about, okay, how much of this is going to be crap, and from an energetic, emotional, physical labor, mental labor, and is it balanced by all the amazing things?
I
You
think
take that
about it
in.
in what type of potential it has at the level it is, because I know,
Hmm.
again, it's not going to win an Oscar. But I think about, I always try, if I say yes to a project, I go in with the highest intentions. Now that may adjust as the production goes on,
Yeah.
but I always try, let me try to do the best if I see any sort of potential. But the potential may not be in the full finished product. It may be in the community, like I said,
Yeah.
or special effects, or the design of something. And also, I look, because I do produce my own projects,
Hmm.
I have to learn skill sets. That's, we all just have to
Yeah.
learn if we want to evolve in our career or have more control over it. You have to learn skill sets, and you have to
Especially on the
learn.
smaller projects, you have to know more because you're going to have to do more.
And I've been on my own projects where I didn't have as much creative control, or I didn't know enough.
Hmm.
And so things went awry. So when I also look at it as a learning opportunity. So I'm taking it as a job. I'm taking it because I think there's something neat involved. I think our communities work together, like in the indie world out here. A lot of them overlap with each other. We overlap with talent usage,
Hmm.
different things like that. People to come in and do different sound and camera editing. So we all kind of help each other a little bit. That's the community of it.
Yeah.
But also, I a lot of times need to learn more. Like
Hmm.
I might get frustrated. You always get frustrated. Whatever you're doing, anything that you have any level of passion for, you're going to get frustrated. That's just happening. So it's, for me, if I decide to take it, there's a reason. And then I go in with great intentions.
Do
And
you,
then I go ahead.
do you think of yourself as a global thinker then, or a long-term thinker? Because there's a level of what I'm hearing is like you're investing in these people in this community, because if this project isn't the project that's going to get here, this project I may learn and everyone may learn, so that the next project is here. Is
I think
that part of
I call it the big picture. I look at everything
big
from the
picture?
big
Yeah.
picture standpoint, but
Cool.
I'm sure we're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Um,
so.
yeah, I do think of it that way because, again, that goes back to your career and your body of work and your creation. You have to look at, even though it's hard sometimes, it's all as one. Like everything is part of it. So I've had people I've worked with years ago that pop back up 10 years later,
Mm,
and that we're in the fray again. We're doing something. Or I had something I learned on a lot of special effects sets that I worked on, that now I know how certain things are done, how much it costs, would I have these skill sets for projects that I want to put together in the future. I mean, I have a horror project that I'm trying to put together. And if I hadn't have been on all those sets, I wouldn't even know how to do half of this
yeah.
stuff. And I wouldn't know who to ask. And I wouldn't know. So, in that sense, because my vision has evolved of what
Hmm.
I'm trying to do, I do feel that I am supported by the work that I've put in. And all
That's
the
great.
stress and everything, it teaches you boundaries, it teaches you skills. You meet people, there's a lot of value in it. It's just, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
It's like preparing for the Olympics. It's a lot of working
Oh
out.
yeah. A lot of working out, a lot of doing the same thing over and over and over again.
And you want everything to be a success. And trust me, I'm a Virgo one. I want everything to be a success. But the reality is that it's not.
Yeah.
And learning how to let that go is a brilliant trait that I've had to learn.
Yeah.
And some people have it and they can just let it go and it's fine. But it's something I had to learn.
Yeah.
And if I didn't go through all the stuff, I wouldn't have
I
that
wonder
skill.
about those people sometimes. Like, are they really letting it go? They seem to be letting it go. Are they?
I don't know, but they are faking it good.
You're really good.
Really,
No,
really
I
good.
do. I do kind of think there are some people that have some sort of magic ability not to hold on to things. And I don't know if it's because of they learned it at a very early age, or it was just that was the way life was done for them, as they were little teeny children. And I see other people that no matter how hard, no matter what class they take, no matter what workshop they do, no matter what breathing they do, letting go of things is just like it's Herculean. And
I'm
I
that
do,
person.
yeah, I do believe we can all get better though. I'm sure you've gotten better over the years.
Yeah,
So
I've had, because I've had to learn. I mean, because I'm not actually. It's funny. I'm not that critical of other people, but when it comes to me, because if it's someone else, I can see, okay, this is what you can improve in, but it's okay. Like you did it, you put its time in. But
yeah.
if it's me, I'm like, how did I not see
Oh
that?
yeah.
So I've had to kind of, but if anything, the independent world has taught me to accept certain things and also realize it's just one project.
By the way,
It's
I
just
love that word acceptance. Acceptance
one.
is one of my favorite words, because I feel like if acceptance was put in place of a lot of words like tolerance, for instance, I feel like we'd all be just so much happier. Like it would just life would just be easier if we just accept the way it is. It is this way. Yes, we want to change it, but first we have to accept it and then we can change it. Like
Right.
acceptance. I don't want to
Yeah.
tolerate anything. I feel like tolerating is not accepting it, which makes it harder to change.
It's dealing with it. It's like dealing with the negativity, but
Yeah.
accepting it. Yeah, I actually agree with you. Because when you accept it, you're just like, okay, this happened. Now,
Yeah.
how do I move forward
Yeah.
or up in the
Yep.
situation?
Or at least a way. Like if I can't move up, or I don't know. Yeah. Like it's just, I don't know. That's one of my favorite words, that like acceptance is, I think maybe I must have always wanted to be accepted and I didn't feel accepted. So maybe that's why it's such a big word for me.
I need to accept.
Like, just
I
accept me
need to
for who I
pay
am, damn it.
forward in the universe. If I accept, you'll accept.
Yeah. It's something along those lines, probably. We're kind of getting at that point. I want to wrap things up a little bit. I mean, this has really been amazing. I know we could continue talking for a couple hours. Um, to kind of wrap things up, I know we started off when you were a little kid going to college at 8, and and now you could probably teach college. And
Probably.
like, if there is, just in case round 2 isn't anytime in the near future, and hopefully we talk sooner than however long it's been, because I feel like it's been way too long.
Yeah.
But if you could, if or is there anything from what we've talked about that you want to make a little bit more clear, or kind of turn up the volume on any of the topics or things, because we've talked about so much.
We have I mean, I think the major through line, at least who I am as an individual, is, and if it's advice or like whatever, when you're looking at what you desire, what you want to create,
Hmm.
the path you think is right in front of you is maybe not meant for you. And
Yeah.
it's like being more open to how to get to the end, maybe more exciting, more fulfilling, and give you more opportunity to make what you think what you wanted to create, even more brilliant. You just
Yeah.
don't know it. And you have to allow yourself the time to create, I don't know if it's the knowledge or the evolution in your mind to actually really get where you're trying to go.
Yep. And
Yeah.
there's the development that's needed sometimes is not what you would ever imagine it to be, because it's not what everyone else has done. So, and oh God, that's so amazing, because everyone's path is their path. And if you look at someone else, you might find what you missed, but if you try to copy them, you'll never get where you want to be.
And I also think that, and because I think about how I learned certain things, like how I learned to produce, to run a show, or run auditions. And if I had done it in a different realm, in a more conventional realm, would have actually entertained the person I am as a
Mm,
person. And probably not. Like, I like a little adventure.
yeah.
I've definitely had that. And I think that that's part of accepting in yourself and exactly who you are.
Yeah.
Really realizing, I hate the term like the universe is doing it for you, but if you think of your path as it's being created and tailored for you, then it might seem more interesting and more exciting.
Absolutely.
Because if I had taken a more conventional route to learn all of this stuff, or if I went to film school for it, oh my gosh, I would have probably dropped out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been entertaining to me. But because the way I learned things and how wild and crazy they were, I was fully involved in it. So
Yep.
no matter how much I get upset or mad, I was fully invested.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
so maybe it is the right path.
I think that's that's great. And I think it's also a good place to end is your path may not be the path you think it is. And so, yeah, I mean, we can all maybe look at where we're going, look at where we've come from, and recalibrate, because I know my path has been full of twists and turns, and I never imagined my life would have come together the way it's come together and put me where I'm at right now. Never in a million years could I have seen this, but I've lived an amazing life like you. I'm happy. So yeah.
And it was created for you, whether that was created with your your own person, universe, whatever you want to call it. But this path was created for you. And that's what I have to remember.
Yeah, I love that.
But I also do believe that.
Don't forget to leave a comment or a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. New episodes every Tuesday, and check us out on YouTube for short clips from each episode. Thank you. And until next time, remember, your life story is yours to write and rewrite as many times as you want.